Ladies and gentlemen, I want us to give a warm North Carolina welcome to a hero of mine who's also supporting the Trump ticket for presidency, and also Mike Pence, a very good friend of mine from Indiana. But this guy has been a friend of mine since 2001 when I went to visit his emergency operations center in the World Trade Center in July of 2001. And we became very good friends, and I'd watched him rebuild a city and rebuild an economy. And then I watched him become America's mayor.
Here, it's great to be in North Carolina. You've got a great state. You've got a great governor. You've got an economy that is now being called the Carolina comeback. And that economy is based on the principles that you will hear today from Donald Trump. It's based on common sense Republican principles of growth, low taxes, low regulations, put money back in your pockets instead of having the government take it from you. That's what Pat McCrory has done. That's what Donald Trump will do. So I know Pat for a long time. I knew him when he was mayor. He was one of the best mayors in the United States, and now he's the best governor, and he's a good friend, and you're lucky to have him. So, in November, when you elect Donald Trump president of the United States, re-elect Pat McCrory. You know, I've campaigned a lot. I ran for president. I campaigned for John McCain, and I've campaigned for George Bush, and I campaigned for Mitt Romney, and I've campaigned for Pat, and I've campaigned for myself, and I have never seen a crowd like this. This is unbelievable. And by the way, there are more of you out outside than inside. I'm sorry. No. Here's why we're here today. We're here today to beat her and keep her out of Washington. We're here today because we all want to be part of this movement. We all want to be. This is historic, what's going on. This is a real revolution. It reminds me of the revolution that Ronald Reagan brought about in 1980. It's a peaceful revolution, but it's a revolution nonetheless. We want to kick out of Washington all those insiders who have been controlling the government for their benefit and have been hurting you for years. It's a tight little crowd in Washington. I worked there for President Ford and for President Reagan. It's a tight little crowd in Washington, and they protect each other. Now, and they don't care about you, they care about themselves. They go into government. They go into government. They come out of government. They go into government. They make a lot of money. And they take a lot of your money. And Hillary Clinton wants to take more of your money. Hillary Clinton is the bought and paid for candidate of the Washington establishment. She is part of the Washington rigged system that excludes all these good people in Wilmington, North Carolina, and in places like Wilmington, North Carolina. She doesn't care about you. She cares about the $150,000, $200,000 speeches that she gives to Wall Street. She's thinking about the $1.2 million that UBS gave Bill Clinton when she made a call to the IRS to try to help UBS. In the old days when I was a prosecutor, you went to jail for that. You think... No. But you know what we have now is timing is everything in politics, and timing has always been the most important thing for our country. This is the right time for a man like Donald Trump. This is what we need right now. We need a man who isn't bought and paid for. We need a man who's been enormously successful in business. We've already tried one who wasn't. And look what we have. We got 70% of the American people believing we're going in the wrong direction. Well, you elected somebody who hadn't done anything in his life. He never built a building. He never created a project. He never built a golf course. He never built a tremendous worldwide business. Well, this is what we need right now. We need a man who has done those things. And I can tell you this from reforming New York City. We need somebody to come in with a broom and clean the damn place out. Clean it out. Hillary Clinton. No one owns Donald Trump. He is running because he loves America, because he appreciates what America has made possible for him and his beautiful family, and he wants the same thing for you. He wants to be your voice in Washington because you don't have a voice. Hillary Clinton has been bought and paid for by the lobbyists, the special interests. Donald Trump will stand for you. He'll be your advocate. He'll be your champion. He'll be your voice. He is going to lower taxes on everyone. Now you say, well, why lower taxes on the rich? First of all, his biggest tax reductions are going to be for the middle class. But going to be for you. But why do you lower taxes on the rich? You know why? Because if you lower taxes on the rich, they produce jobs for the poor and the middle class, and the poor become the middle class, and the middle class become the rich. That's what America is about. We are not a socialist country. We are not a socialist country. He's going to cut the corporate tax from 35% to 15%. Do you know how much money that's going to bring back to this country? All she wants to do is raise taxes. And as she said a few days ago, in the only truthful statement she's made during this campaign, maybe the only truthful statement she ever made. She said, getting a little carried away in a speech, I'm going to raise taxes on the middle class. You're darn right she's going to raise taxes on the middle class, because you can't raise enough money from the rich to pay for the billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars that she just wants to give to people. We don't want to hand things to people. We want to put out our hand and help them. Today it was revealed that some of those Hillary Clinton emails contain the name of a man named Amari. Amari was executed by the Iranians several days ago. Remember, Hillary told us there was no top secret information on her emails? Remember she told us that? Well, she lied. And I don't know the connection between that and the death of Mr. Amari, but what I do know is it put a lot more attention on him when they found those emails. It put a lot more attention on him. It certainly put him at great risk, even if they didn't find them. And it shows you that when the director of the FBI said she was extremely careless, he was being kind. If I used to be a U.S. attorney, if she applied for a job as a U.S. attorney with me, I wouldn't be able to hire her. You know why? She wouldn't pass an FBI background check, because she was extremely careless with national security information. And they're questioning Donald Trump's temperament, Donald Trump's ability to handle our national security. No one's found him extremely careless in the handling of anything, much less national security information. He didn't have the name of a person in the witness protection program that was exposed for the world to see, a man who got killed. So we have a candidate. He's going to explain his program on the economy, and I'm going to conclude by telling you a few things that you also should know. He's going to expand our military. She will continue Obama's policy of shrinking our military to pre-World War II levels. He will take care of our veterans. She can't. You know why she can't? Because she's bought and paid for by the unions that control the VA hospitals. Shouldn't every veteran have a card where they can go to any hospital they want in order to get the treatment they need? Shouldn't they? You know why she's against it? Because she's bought and paid for by the union that controls those hospitals. Just like she won't give you school choice because she's bought and paid for by the teachers union. And I could go on and on. So many people have bought and paid for her. There's nothing left. There's no Hillary left. Donald Trump is pro-military. He's pro-police. He's pro-law and order. And she is just the opposite. Do you know that she excluded uniformed police officers from the Democratic National Convention floor? Do you know that? They were embarrassed to have men in uniform and women in uniform on the floor of that convention. She's refused to submit an application for an endorsement by the Fraternal Order of Police. So when I say that Donald Trump is pro-police and she is not, I know what I'm talking about. And I remember her as a senator in New York and what she used to do with the police. Same thing. Don't want the police around me. This woman is anti-military. She's anti-police. She is anti-growth economy. Donald Trump is just the opposite. He's for a growth economy. He's going to put money in your pocket. She's going to take it out of your pocket. Here's the one thing I want you to listen for, because this is why you should vote for him. Most important. Donald Trump gets the establishment nervous. They're shaking. I can see them on television. Look, they're mostly Democrats, but he's got a couple of those Republicans shaking too. It's not. Look, neither party has a monopoly on virtue or vice. We got a lot of good people. We got a couple. They got some good people. They got a lot of. But the establishment on both sides of the aisle, they're shaking. And you know what? They should be. Because when he becomes president of the United States, he's going to do one thing and one thing alone. He's going to represent you, not them. He will be your voice, your champion, your advocate, my good friend, and the next president of the United States of America, Donald Trump.
Thank you very much. So amazing. Rudy just left. He just said, I don't believe this. This is unbelievable. Nobody believes it. The crowds we're getting, I'm the messenger, but I'll tell you what, the message is the right message. We're tired of incompetence. We're tired of not taking care of our military. We're tired of not taking care of our vets who are being taken care of very poorly. We're tired of so many different things, and this is what happens. So our mayor, my friend Rudy Giuliani, just walks out. I'm telling you, he said, I don't believe this. This is incredible. And what he hasn't seen, and your governor, by the way, who's a great guy, and he's now seeing it, they're walking outside because there are thousands of people outside that can't get in. I said, Rudy, you think this is bad? Go take a look outside. So I just want to thank Pat and Rudy, and I want to thank everybody for being here. And we're going to have a good time. We love North Carolina. We love North Carolina. We did really well in the primaries, if you remember, and I hear we're doing really well now. We have to win. That November 8th date is so important. It's so important. You know, I bring things up like the judges, right? Supreme Court justices. We have to get, you know, you could have as many as 4. I guess there's a scenario in which this president could pick 5 Supreme Court justices. And if you pick 2 that are left, it's going to be a disaster for our country. Your Second Amendment, the National Rifle Association endorsed me, and they endorsed me early, long time ago. And they're great people. Wayne and Chris, they're great people. But if you do something with these, I'll tell you what, justices right now, you lost a great one with Scalia. We want to replace with justices very much like Justice Scalia, and that's going to happen, and it's so important. So if for no other reason, I mean, it's such an important, one of the most important elections for a lot of reasons, not just that, but for a lot of reasons. But that's so obvious, because for whatever reason, they say this could be the presidency, this next 4 years, where you'll pick more Supreme Court justices than anybody has ever had the opportunity to do. And believe me, I'll make you very proud of those justices. They'll be great. Okay? So we had an incident a few days ago with the $400 million all cash, right? $400 million all cash. Anybody know what that looks like? That's a lot of cash. That's a lot of cash. And honestly, it's so sad. Think of it. Going to Iran, a terror state. Now, I happen to think they have plenty of money. We've given them $150 billion, so the $400 million is just, you know. I happen to think it goes into their accounts in Switzerland, personally. Now, a lot of people say, no, it's used for terror, and they use it for terror because it's the #1 terror funder, not even close. But I also think that when you have $400 million in cash, different denominations, you see the size of this? They did, I guess, release the pictures after all. They released pictures. And interesting, I'll tell you, I sort of think it goes into bank accounts, right? You know, I sort of think they take it, they probably use some for this, some for that. Can do a lot of things. And Obama said that he did it because we don't have a working account with Iran. Do you believe it? How long does it take to set up an account? Right? You don't have a working account, you set up an account, right, Laura? You set up an account. It takes about 2 days. Oh, look, what's going on in this country, folks, what's going on in this country is insane. And we have people running our country that don't know what they're doing. They're grossly incompetent. And it's time. I mean, we have to make change, real change, not Obama change. We have to make change. Whether it's Sergeant Bergdahl, where we get Bergdahl, who was a traitor, and they get 5 of the greatest killers that they've wanted for 8 years. We get Bergdahl. I call it the 5-for-1 trade. Or the Iran deal, where we get nothing. We get nothing. They get, ultimately, they have the path, beautiful path. They'll get way earlier than that. They'll get nuclear weapons. So if you get Trump, you're going to see a lot of changes to that deal. It's going to happen fast. You're going to see some big changes. And what really, I mean, I saw where President Obama said that the $400 million in cash had nothing to do with the release of the hostages, right? It really doesn't work, does it? Does it? I mean, remember Obamacare? You're going to keep your doctor, you're going to keep your plan. Over and over again, you're going to keep your doctor. It was a lie. And in fact, if he didn't make the lie, he would have never gotten it approved, because most Democrats, many of the Democrats didn't want to do it. It was only that got them to sign it and to approve it. And it was a lie. And the $400 million, and from what the rumor is and from what the reports are, the hostages couldn't leave the airport until this other plane arrived. They don't know why, but I think we all have a pretty good reason why. It's all a big lie. It's all a big lie, and it's so sad to see. And let me tell you, Hillary Clinton is going to be 4 more years of Obama, but maybe worse. Maybe worse. Going to be 4 more years. 4 more years of ISIS. 4 more years of high taxes. You know, yesterday I had a big event, really. It turned out to be a very big event in Detroit. And good event. Very good. And we got wonderful reviews and a lot of good comments. But the thing I'm doing, I'm cutting taxes big league, especially for the middle class and especially for businesses. Because businesses are dying, and that means small businesses, period. Businesses are leaving our country like they've never left before. They're going all over. They're going to Mexico, that I can tell you. Mexico is like the 8th wonder of the world. You know, I've been telling a story, a friend of mine, good friend of mine, good guy. He builds plants. He builds plants for cars, for computers, you know, where they make them, massive plants. And I said to him, how are you doing? And he's worked in North Carolina, by the way. I said to him, how are you doing? He said, phenomenal. It's like, I think, the biggest in the world at this. That's what he does. Great guy. I said, how's it all going? He said, you got to see Mexico, Donald. It's the 8th wonder of the world. What we're building there is like never has been built. We've never seen anything like it. And I said, how are we doing in the United States? I'm more interested in that. Okay, if it's okay, I guess, right? We're allowed to, you know, America first, folks. America first. America first. Right? America first. America first. We get a little tired of these deals where they actually put, and you know why? Because of lobbyists and special interests and people representing and people wanting it to happen. It's just not that they want other countries to benefit over us. There are reasons for it. And, you know, when I raise money, and I'm putting up a lot of money for my own campaign, I'm funding me. And I'm raising money for the Republican Party. And we're getting a lot of money from the small donors. Remember 2 months ago, I hadn't started. I wanted to make sure I get the nomination before I start, right? Let me get the nomination, please. And then I took a lot of heat from the press, the world's most dishonest people, by the way. And terrible. Terrible. Those cameras will not move and show how many people are in this auditorium. Those cameras are not going to move unless we have a protester. Is there a protester up there in the corner? Any protester? If we had a protest, that's the only time they move, because they're showing something that in their mind is a bad thing. So then they move. But I like that. I've always liked my protesters because the cameras show these massive crowds and people say, wow, was that a big crowd? You know, I go home to my wife. I say, how's it going? She goes, darling, your speech was very good. Were there many people there? I say, yeah, about 7,000. That's a small group. It's only confined. I mean, you had to see outside. I felt so badly. I came up, thank you, and I love you too. Who said that? Who said that, huh? Thank you. But I came up with Rudy from New York, and we're driving up, and we're going block after block after block, the line. And I said, are those people going to be able to get in? They said, the place is already full. And Rudy just said, man, I've never seen anything like that. Maybe a couple of days before an election. But this is what's happening. Because of the fact we have a movement going, folks. Because people are so tired of it. They're so tired of it. So, and by the way, voter ID. What's with that? What's with voter ID? Why aren't we having voter ID? In other words, I want to vote. Here's my identification. I want to vote, as opposed to somebody coming up and voting 15 times for Hillary. Well, and I will not tell you to vote 15 times. I will not tell you to do that. Okay? You won't vote 15 times. But people will. They'll vote many times. And how that could have happened is unbelievable. And the governor just told me that they're going before the United States Supreme Court Justice Roberts, and maybe they can get a stay. Let's see what happens, okay? Let's see what happens. That's a very important thing. But I wrote a few things down, and to me, so important. Yes, darling, thank you. Unstable Hillary lacks the judgment. Now, Bernie Sanders said she lacks judgment, right? And nobody said anything about it, no problem. He said, you lack judgment. And during one of the debates, nobody said, it was fine. When I say it, they say, that's terrible the way you talk. I say, she does, she lacks judgment. She lacks temperament, and I'm the one that used unfit many months ago. And now they turn it around, use it on me. Unfit? I'm unfit? That's a first. But she lacks the temperament and the moral character to lead this country. It's very simple. She really does. She's a dangerous person who doesn't tell the truth, which has been proven very loudly. I've never seen I don't think we've ever had greater proof of that, of anybody. And she's disregarded the lives of Americans. You see what's happening with what she's done with her server. And you know why she did that. So I just look at this, and I said that if she gets elected, she will cause the destruction of this country from within. Remember that. Remember that. She will allow people into our country that will do damage. They will do damage, folks. You look at what's going on in the world. Look at France. Take a good look at France. I have friends that go to France. They used to love France. They say, no, thank you. They don't expect to be going back anytime for a long time. I have one friend that said, how was your trip this year to France? He said, France isn't France anymore. We're not going. And so many people are saying that. Look at what's going on with Germany. Look at what's happening with Germany. Look at the crime. Look at the problems. We have enough problems in our country right now. We don't need additional problems, folks. We don't need additional problems. And for all we know, this could be the great Trojan horse. This could be. We don't know who these people are. Now, they're coming in through Obama, and I looked at a chart yesterday, and it's like for years, it's sort of like this, a little uptick, and the last period of time, it's like, wah, wah, wah. I have never seen anything like it. They're letting them in, and again, you can't vet them. You don't know where they come from. We don't know. Look at the damage that two people in San Bernardino probably radicalized the guy, the woman coming in. Look at the damage in Orlando. Look at the damage that was done in Orlando by one whack job, one sick whack job. And you know what he was screaming? He's screaming what they all scream. And we have to get smart, folks. We don't need the problems. And we've already got those problems, just so you understand. Because they're coming into the country and they're being put where nobody even knows where they are. It's like, if I were the enemy, I would say, I can't believe they're that stupid. They're taking my people and they're putting them all over the place. Because you have great military right here. And our military... Our military cannot be beaten. But you know what can happen? When we don't know where they are, where they're coming from, you get them all over the place. And folks, it's some. You don't need many. You don't need many. One person in Orlando. Two people. Look at in France, 130. Now they have the strictest gun laws anywhere in the world. France, Paris, 130 people killed. 130. And I've said 100 times, if this man or if this woman or if that woman or man had a gun in Paris or in San Bernardino and the bullets were flying in the other direction, would have been a whole different story, folks. Would have been a whole different. foolish people that say Second Amendment would have been a whole different story. I'll go a step further. If these people, bad, sick people, if these people knew there were guns in the good guys' hands, right, they probably wouldn't have gone in the first place, all right? All right? Gun-free. What do you think, these gun-free zones? You know what a gun-free zone is? That's like, they study where the gun-free zones. If they would have known you had guns, if they would have known that they were going to be shot at from the other side, would have been a whole different story. Maybe wouldn't have even happened in the first place. So they better not come here, he said. They better not. They better not. So recently, a book came out a couple of weeks ago, a Secret Service agent, and made a statement because she said the other day she short-circuited. Hey, could you imagine if I said that I short-circuited? They would be calling for my execution. Electric chair. They'd bring back the electric chair. It would be a whole different ballgame if I said it, believe me. But the secret agent said she simply lacks the integrity and temperament to serve in the office, right? From the bottom of my soul, he said, I know this to be true. Her leadership style, which is volcanic and impulsive, and she makes bad decisions, okay? Hey, you know, it's one thing to make bad decisions. It's another thing to be wacky and make bad decisions. She is disdainful of the rules set for everyone else, and she hasn't changed a bit. That was the good thing. I couldn't say the bad things that were said. It's too much. Nobody would even believe it. You got to see this book. Nobody would believe because it's so terrible, so terrible. And she comes across like this woman, nice, easy, but she's not. And she's listen, she's not a leader, and she is a liar. Hey, 33,000 emails are gone, okay? 33,000 emails are gone. They're gone. How do you get rid of 33,000 emails? Who sends 33,000 emails? I mean, 33, do you know how many that is? I think that's like 24 hours a day, reading them or sending them, but it wouldn't matter. For years, 33,000 emails are missing. And she's so guilty. She's so guilty. I think it's a tremendous blotch in our country. I really mean that. I think what happened over the last 2 weeks with respect to her, especially in light of the fact that General Petraeus and many others have suffered unbelievable consequence, I think it's a tremendous blot on our country, a tremendous blot. Just remember that. But I just looked at this, the economic failures of Obama and Clinton, etc. Obama-Clinton economic policies have produced 1.2% economic growth, the weakest so-called recovery since the Great Depression. Now, this is like unbelievable, 1.2. Do you know if China goes to 7% or 8%, it's like a national catastrophe. Now, what they do is they cut their currency, they devalue their currency, and big league. And then all of our businesses continue to be drained out of the United States, our money, our jobs. They make our product. They sell our product to us. No tax, no nothing. You devalue. See, devaluing is sort of cheating. You know, it's sort of like cheating. Now, I have great relationships with China. I've done great business with China. I've done really well with China. I have them as tenants. I sell condos. I own the Bank of America building in San Francisco with a great group. Thank you, man. Got to win North Carolina. Thank you. Thank you. But it's cheating. It's really cheating. And when I look at these trade deals, it's so sad, where we lose $800 billion with a B, dollars a year on trade. With China alone, it's $400 billion and $500 billion and $505 billion. This is year in and year out. It's actually amazing that our country keeps going. But what has happened is we have people in the audience. In 18 years, they're making less money now than they made 18 years ago in real wages. 18. And in many cases, they're working 2 and 3 jobs, okay? But they're making less money now than they made 18 years ago. And those stats come right out. Real wages. They're working harder. They're getting older. So in theory, it's supposed to be the other way. You know, you're working young, you don't care. Get a little older, it's like, well, by the way, how about me? I think I'm working harder, too, if you want to know. I never worked this hard in my life. But I like it. I like it. I love it, actually, because I've met so many incredible people. You know, I really got a tremendous understanding of this country, because I'm going to places that I've heard about, I've known about. I'm stopping everywhere. And I see the carnage that NAFTA has caused. I see the carnage. It's been horrible. I see upstate New York. I see North Carolina. But I see every state. You look at New England. New England got really whacked. New England got hit. You look at Ohio. What happened there? And still happening. By the way, this isn't like it's going to happen or it's all over. It's getting worse. You look at Ohio. You look at Michigan. What's going on with the car plants being built in Mexico is unbelievable. And more, you know, they're moving. We were just talking about the auto workers yesterday, where they've lost over 100,000 auto workers in Michigan, the state of Michigan, which is our car capital. And it's really not the car capital anymore. Mexico will become the new car capital of the world in a very short period of time. Now think of it. And that's only because we allow it to happen. And I like Mexico, and I respect the leaders of Mexico because they're much smarter, they're much street smarter, but they're much smarter and more cunning than our leaders. But you have to see what's going on. And one of the reasons I won Indiana was Bobby Knight, because he's the best, he's the greatest. But one of the reasons is that Carrier Air Conditioning let 1,400 people go, and they're building a plant in Mexico. And we're not going to let it happen, folks. Look, right now, as you stand here and you think you have great jobs, companies are negotiating from North Carolina to move to Mexico and other places. It's not just Mexico, by the way. Made possible by our federal government, made possible by the people that enacted this suicidal pact. It's a suicidal pact for our country. And, you know, I've watched for years. Now, I was never a politician until 14 months ago, so I can't believe I'm saying I'm a politician. Can't believe it. But I've been watching for years, and I've watched as the government tries to keep businesses from leaving our country and going to other countries. And I've seen low-interest loans. I've seen zero-interest loans. I've seen all sorts of subsidies. Forget it. That stuff's not going to work. That's not going to work. What's going to work is, as an example, Carrier moves to Mexico, and you wish him a lot of luck. Good luck. Have a nice plant. I hope my friend builds it, right? And then you know what happens? When they make their air conditioners, and they think they're going to sell that air conditioner, people living in Indianapolis, where they come from, for a similar price, and they think they're going to sell it there and have no repercussions. With me, they have repercussions, okay? With me, they have repercussions. With me, we inform them that if you move, you're going to pay a 35% tax on every single air conditioner that pours across our now very secure borders. And two things are going to happen. One of two things. One of two things are going to happen. Number one, if you get them in time, they're not moving. Throws it all off balance. They're all off kilter. Number one, they're not. Now, people would say, well, why doesn't anybody use this? Why doesn't anybody mention it? I'll tell you why. Because they're controlled by their lobbyists. They're politicians. And Carrier goes out, and whoever it might be. I'm just using Carrier as an example. It's hundreds and thousands. It's thousands of companies and millions of jobs we're talking about. I was looking at numbers. I'm not going to repeat the numbers because they'll say I was wrong. It can't be that high. I couldn't believe it was that high. But it's thousands of companies and millions of jobs. And you'd say, why doesn't somebody else say what Trump is saying? So I'm controlled by myself because I'm putting up my money. Okay? I'm putting up my money. But although we raised, did you see 82 million last month? 82 million last month. And a lot of the money was the small donations, which Republicans never get. A lot of them, I think it averaged $61 a hit. 61, can you imagine that? The total that we raised. And in fact, in May, I told you, I was taking heat. Because they said, Donald Trump didn't raise any money. And I told you why, right? I didn't raise it because I didn't know. I got to make sure I have the nomination. If I didn't get the nomination, I would have gone to Turnberry and played golf, okay? In Scotland. But you know what? I got the nomination, so now I had to start. And we raised $51 million in June, right? A lot of it in small donations. And we raised $82 million in July. People are going, even the haters back there, the people that truly hate Trump, they said, that's amazing. So we're doing all right. And people, look, they want to hear this message, because this is a message. This is an important message. But when you say, and when you hear what I just said, you charge a tariff or a tax. And guess what? And people say, but why haven't the politicians, they're smart, why haven't they done it? Because they're controlled by people that work for many of these companies, and they're not going to do it, whether it's donors or whether it's special interests or lobbyists. They're controlled because they want it to happen. And honestly, I think it's a total disgrace. I think it's a total disgrace. For the millions of jobs and for the thousands and thousands of companies that have left our country. If I were here to speak to every one of those companies for 5 minutes, bye-bye. They were so quiet. You know, I like the Hillary protesters. You know why? They're so nice and quiet. The Bernie protesters were brutal. They were tough, right? The Hillary protesters have no spirit. Did you see that? She starts screaming. The guy walks up. I'll go. The Bernie ones they had a lot more spirit. I think we're going to get a lot of Bernie voters, you want to know the truth, because they do understand that trade is killing us. Trade. So a few things, a few of the facts I wrote, which I think are amazing. One is the 1.2% lowest, and, forget it. That's not a recovery. It's probably much. Don't forget, when they announce 1.2%, that means it's lower. And 1.2 is starting to set records. The national debt, so we're up to almost $20 trillion. $20 trillion! The national debt under Obama has doubled. Think of it, doubled. Might be, I think by the time he gets out, it's going to more than double, but again, we have to be very accurate, because they'll say, well, it hasn't quite doubled. Believe me, by the time he gets out, it'll have more than doubled. The national debt has doubled. And you know the bad part about that? You think if the national debt has doubled, our infrastructure would be great. Our country would be in great shape. We'd have beautiful roads, beautiful highways. You see where like 50% of the bridges are in danger in this country? And the roadways are a mess. I have a friend, he's in the trucking business. He said, for years he had no problems. Now he buys these big, beautiful trucks, and the wheels get wiped out because of the potholes on the highways and things that he never had. So you'd think with all of that doubling of the national debt, you'd really think that we'd be in good shape from the infrastructure standpoint, right? We're not. We're in very bad shape. U.S. trade deficit, almost $800 billion. Nearly 24 million Americans in their prime earning years are out of the labor force, right? In the last 7 years, another 14 million people have left the workforce. Think of it. These are the real numbers, not the 5% nonsense. You know, you look for a job, you can't find your job, you go home, you share, you go to your parents, you go to your friends, you do whatever. You gave up. And now you're considered, statistically, you're considered employed. Those people are not employed. These are great people. And there are plenty of them in here. I mean, we have great people. We have the most loyal people. We have the smartest people. You know, so many of my people, they're so smart. They like to say, well, Trump, I don't know if he's got this right. Let me tell you, we have the smartest people. We have the people that are the smartest and the strongest and the best and the hardest working. We have the smartest people. We'll put IQs among some of us. We can't say all of us, right? Against any IQs that we have to deal with. That I can tell you. I would love to do that. In the last 7 years, 14 million people, 1 in 5 American households do not have a single member in the workforce. Pretty bad. Home ownership. This is one that is amazing to me. Today, home ownership is at its lowest rate in 51 years. So you own homes. I mean, it always used to be the dream to own a home, right? The American home. Lowest that it's been in so many years. 51 years. Nearly 12 million people and more Americans are dependent on food stamps. And 2 million more Latino Americans live in poverty under Obama and Clinton. Under Obama, because Clinton is going to carry on. You know, I don't know if you saw, I gave a massive tax decrease yesterday, and regulations, we're going to get rid of so many of them. But Clinton is going to double your taxes. She's going to double up your taxes. And she's trying to say, well, I don't like Trump's plan. She's going to double up your taxes. You're going to have massive tax increases if Clinton gets in. Enjoy it, folks, if that happens. 58% of African American youth are not employed. How sad is that? American households are earning $4,000 less, listen to this one, today than they were 16 years ago. Many workers are earning less than 1970 in real dollars. So 1970, it's a long time ago, right? They're earning in real dollars less money. So under my plan, we're going to create millions of new and really good-paying jobs. You know, it's interesting, because even the pro-Obama people say about the jobs that they're bad jobs. I've heard it from many of the people. They're trying to defend him, but they say they're bad jobs. They're not good jobs. The good jobs have left. But we'll create millions of new good-paying jobs, but good jobs. It's so important. It's so important. Everyone's taxes will go down. Hillary Clinton has supported tax increases on the middle class for her entire career. She's voted for higher taxes 235 times in the Senate. That's all? I thought it was more than that. 235 times. I hope there's not a decimal point in there, so 23.5 times. But I don't think there is. Voted for higher taxes 235 times in the Senate. Now she's planning another job-killing $1.3 trillion tax increase. That's what her tax increase is going to be, folks. Like you're not paying enough, right? Her plan will tax many small businesses who are already in deep trouble out of business. Then we will make, and this is so important, this was an Ivanka Trump, okay? My daughter, so great. So great. We're going to make child care expenses tax deductible for working families. And just many, many other things. I mean, we're going to make some unbelievable changes. And it's so easy. Again, you know, regulations, I'm traveling all over, and I'm meeting with business owners, and beyond business owners, even people that work at the businesses. They're being laid off because of it. Regulations. If I told you, and I'm so surprised, this is probably the biggest surprise, if you have a small business, and I said you can have one or the other, a major tax cut like we're going to, you know, we're bringing it down to 15% from much more than double that. But if I told you that you could have a massive tax decrease or really substantially, but in a real way, cut regulation, 100% of the people I talk to would take the regulation if you could only have one or the other. It's amazing. It's amazing. And that surprised me. Surprised you too. Surprised them too. 100%. I mean, everybody, businesses can't form anymore. The regulatory burden is so incredible that you can't form businesses, very hard. And businesses that are in existence are being put out of existence for regulations that don't do anything. We want safety regulations. We want environmental regulations. We're not, people that don't want these things. We have to have that. We want clean air. We want clean water. We want clean water. But to do that, and there are certain things that you want to do, but to do that, you don't have to destroy our country and destroy our businesses. So, I just wrote this down today. Hillary wants to raise taxes. It's a comparison. I want to lower them. Hillary wants to expand regulations, which she does bigly. Can you believe that? I will reduce them very, very substantially. Could be as much as 70, 75%. Hillary wants to shut down energy production. I want to expand it. Lower electric bills, folks. Hillary wants to essentially abolish the Second Amendment. By the way, and if she gets to pick her judges, nothing you can do, folks. Although the Second Amendment people, maybe there is, I don't know. But I'll tell you what, that will be a horrible day. If Hillary gets to put her judges, right now we're tied. You see what's going on? We're tied because Scalia, this was not supposed to happen. Justice Scalia was going to be around for 10 more years at least, and this is what happens. That was a horrible thing. So now look at it. So Hillary essentially wants to abolish the Second Amendment. Now, speaking to the NRA folks, who are great, when you, and I'll tell you, so they endorsed me. They endorsed me very early. My sons are members. I'm a member. We can add, I think, the National Rifle Association. We can add the Second Amendment to the justices. They almost go, in a certain way, hand in hand. Now, the justices are going to do things that are so important, and we have such great justices. You saw my list of 11 that have been vetted and respected and have gotten great. Okay. And they a little bit equate. But if you don't do what's the right thing, you're not going to have, either you're not going to have a Second Amendment, or you're not going to have much of it left, and you're not going to be able to protect yourselves, which you need. When the bad guys burst into your house, they're not looking about Second Amendments and do I have the right to do this? Okay? The bad guys aren't going to be giving up their weapons. But the good people will say, oh, well, that's the law. No, not going to happen. We can't let it happen. We can't let it happen. Hillary Clinton wants to have totally open borders where people flow into our country. Where they flow into our country and they take your jobs and they do lots of things. And I want people to come into our country, but they have to do it through a process. They have to do it legally, right? So, you have drugs pouring in. You have everything coming in. In New Hampshire, great state, they have a tremendous heroin problem. I said to them, we will stop the drugs from pouring into our country from the southern border. We're going to stop it. And by the way, we will build a wall. Just need it. Walls do work. Walls do work. Now, here's one that, Doesn't look that way, but she is. Hillary wants to invade foreign countries. That's what she does. And look at the mess. So we've spent, for 3 years I've been saying we've spent $2 trillion, right, in Iraq. I've been saying for now, I guess. Somebody actually said to me the other day, they're talking about $4 or $5 trillion in the Middle East. And I'm going to get the accurate number. They don't know the accurate number, the truth is. They have no idea. They have no idea what we're doing. We're sending equipment over, the enemy's taking it. We sent over 2,300 Humvees that are totally armor-plated. They got stolen by the enemy. 2,300. I thought they meant like 2 or 23. Or 230 was too much. 2,300 Humvees, and they got stolen. They got taken by the enemy. Shot gets fired in the air, the ones we gave to the so-called allies, these great allies that we always pick, who end up being worse than the guys we're trying to get out. So, terrible. Hillary and President Obama refuse to use the term radical Islamic terrorism. Big problem. Big problem. Hillary wants to release violent criminals and criminal offenders from prison. That's wonderful. Enjoy yourselves. I want to work with our police. Our police are so incredible. They're not getting the respect they deserve. Not getting the respect they deserve. And we're going to, in our country, restore law and order. We have to. We have to restore law and order. And the police are going to be careful, and they're going to be studied, and they're going to be... But we have to restore law and order. What happened in Dallas, where all of those people were shut down, absolutely for no reason, viciously shut down, and so many others. I was with one of the police groups the other day. They're endorsing me. And I said, that was terrible in Dallas. And they gave me a list of like 8 other states in the last short while where the same smaller number, but the same thing was happening, where police are being killed. We have to respect and cherish our police. School choice we want, Common Core we don't want. We got to get rid of Common Core. Bring education in. Have to be. And folks, and we have to renegotiate with NAFTA. And by the way, going back to the wall, Mexico is going to pay for the wall. That I can tell you. Gonna pay. These politicians, they don't know me. They don't understand me. And I am. I mean, a group of 50 people. These are real geniuses. These are 50 people that have been running our country forever. And they said, we can't support Donald Trump. The reason they can't, you know why? Because I'm not going to hire these people. I don't want these people. Take a look. Take a look at what these people, these are sort of like the people that have been involved with Washington, making decisions militarily, on defense, on other things. Take a look what's happened to our country. Our military is depleted. Our vets aren't taken care of. We can't beat ISIS. Can you imagine General George Patton, who is right now spinning in his grave, the great General Douglas MacArthur? Can you imagine? And I say because we have so many military people, and this is such a military state, and I love it. I love it. But can you imagine them seeing that we can't beat these 25 or 30,000 people? We can't beat them. We're fighting a politically correct war. It's a politically correct war. I mean, you know what's going on. You know what's going on. These are people that chop off heads. These are people that in steel cages drop steel cages into the waters and drowned large numbers of people. These are people that bury people in the sand. We got to knock them out. I was against the war in Iraq. We shouldn't have been to the war in Iraq. It destabilized the Middle East, and I said that was going to happen. But we shouldn't have gotten out the way we got out. The way we got out was insane. And Obama gave a date, and he said, and that's how ISIS happened, folks. Hence, the birth of ISIS. Congratulations, Hillary Clinton. Congratulations. I mean, she should get, if I'm ISIS, I call her up, and I give her the most valuable player award. Okay? And I guarantee you, with Libya, which was her baby, and all of the other mistakes she's made, Obama talks now, because obviously for him, that's the better alternative, all right? But he's been an incompetent president. He's done a horrible job. And I guarantee you that if he had it to do again, and he would only say this to his wife, but if he had it to do again, he would not have chosen Hillary Clinton to be his Secretary of State because she made so many horrible mistakes and cost so many lives. And I mean lives on both sides. I'm not just saying, I mean lives on both sides. She's inept. She's inept. And to think that she's even allowed to run for the presidency of the United States when she deleted and got rid of 33,000 emails is an embarrassment to our country, and it always will be, okay? It always will be. So I want to thank all of you for being here. Look, I'm going to be around, and we're going to be coming to North Carolina a lot. Got to win it. Very important. But people are great. My daughter-in-law comes from North Carolina. I'm here all the time. But people, the people are great. The military is great. We are going to make America great again. We're going to start winning. We're going to put America first. We're going to make America safe again. But never, ever forget, we are going to make America great again. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I'll be back soon. Thank you. God bless you.
Is still standing strong, fighting for everyday Americans to rebuild this nation at home and abroad. Now, I got to tell you, Donald Trump understands the frustrations and hopes of the American people. I truly do believe, more than any other American leader in my lifetime since our 40th president, Ronald Reagan. Donald Trump has never forgotten the men and women in this country who work with their hands, who grow the food, who build our roads and bridges, tend to our sick, and teach our kids, and protect our families. And let me promise you right now, As the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the United States of America, President Donald Trump will stand with the men and women in our law enforcement community. He will provide the resources they need to protect our families and come home safe to theirs. Would you all mind getting on your feet and thanking the members of the law enforcement community who are with us here today and showing how much we appreciate the sacrifices that they make? Stronger America at home and abroad, law and order, and a growing American economy. That's the vision of making America great again, and that's the vision that Donald Trump and I are fighting all across this country with your help to advance. And it really is remarkable when you think about the contrast for what the other party has to offer. At the very time when America is crying out for something new and different, the other party has answered with a stale agenda and the most predictable of names. And the American people are ready for change. We're ready to break free from the tired, old, failed leadership in Washington, D.C. I mean, I don't know if you caught that speech that she gave at their national convention. I mean, I watched most of it. Didn't watch all of it, honestly. I had as hard a time staying awake as her husband did. It wasn't just that it was long, and it was late. It was just the same old, same old. It really was. I mean, the same tired policies that have resulted in our economy running into a ditch. We're in the weakest recovery in this country since 1949. The people of Pennsylvania know it. We feel it long before the morning after Hillary Clinton's speech before her national convention. We all got up, turned on the television, and we heard that official Washington announced that our economy had grown by just 1.2% in the previous quarter. I mean, we have the lowest labor participation rate since the 1970s in this country. And most heartbreaking of all, today there are nearly 7 million more Americans living in poverty than when Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton came into office and into power. It really is incredible. And what's her answer? Well, Hillary Clinton wants to raise taxes by $1.3 trillion. Estimates are that will cost 300,000 American jobs and lower wages. She wants to increase spending by a minimum of $3.5 trillion on top of a $19 trillion national debt. She has no plan to reduce regulations. In fact, wants to expand the war on coal and even expand Obamacare. So let me say, for the sake of our security, for the sake of our prosperity, for the sake of preserving that we have the highest standards of integrity in the highest office in the land, men and women of Pennsylvania, let's decide here and now that Hillary Clinton will never be elected president of the United States of America. They tell us this economy is the best that we can do, but here in Pennsylvania, you'll know better. Just like we do back in Indiana. This isn't anywhere near the best we can do. It's just the best they can do. And when Donald Trump becomes president of the United States of America, he's going to rebuild our economy by lowering taxes, reducing red tape, and repealing Obamacare lock, stock, and barrel. I hope you caught a little bit of that speech yesterday. I was there in Detroit with him. Donald Trump laid out the first of what will be a series of major addresses on a broad range of policies that will articulate our vision for a new administration in Washington, D.C. His plan is simply this: to reignite the American economy through tax reform, regulatory reform, trade reform, and energy reform. I mean, Donald Trump and I, once we arrive in Washington, D.C., are going to roll our sleeves up and work with that Congress, and we're going to lower taxes on working families, small businesses, and family farms across the board. We're going to lower one of the highest business tax rates in the world to 15%, so businesses here in Pennsylvania can compete and keep jobs here in this state and in this country. And here in the beautiful hills of Lancaster. How about just give it up for how beautiful Lancaster is? Lancaster County. I grew up with a cornfield in my backyard. I know how sturdy, how important the family farm is to the vitality and the character of this nation. Donald Trump announced yesterday when he becomes president, we're going to repeal death taxes once and for all and keep the family farm and small businesses growing from one generation to the next. We talked about regulatory reform, trade reform. How about trade deals that are negotiated by one of the most successful business negotiators in the planet to make sure that NAFTA and all of our agreements work for American workers here in Pennsylvania, in Indiana, and in every state in this country. And on energy, I got to tell you, the contrast could not be more clear. You know, we have years now of an administration that literally has been waging a war on American energy, and particularly a war on coal. Hillary Clinton actually stood in front of a town hall just like this, and not long ago, and I'll paraphrase, she said, elect her and you're going to have a lot fewer coal mining companies and a lot fewer coal miners, right? We don't need a president who promises to put coal miners out of work. We need a president that will unleash the full potential of the American energy economy, end the war on coal, and let American coal and American energy stand tall again. There's a lot more to it. I'd encourage you, and I'm going to get to your questions in a few minutes, I'd encourage you to take a look at that speech. Go to the website, learn more about these policies, because they can work. And I know what I'm talking about, because I come from a state that works, the state of Indiana. I really do. I mean, the state of Indiana, about a little more than 10 years ago, the state of Indiana found itself in a position not too dissimilar from a lot of states and even our nation's capital. Taxes were too high, we were running deficits and debt, and then we decided to take a turn toward common sense conservative leadership. My predecessor and I both basically rolled our sleeves up. We balanced budgets in Indiana. We made record investments, as I've been governor, in education. Largest increase in education spending in Indiana history. $2.5 billion in infrastructure. We have the largest budget reserves in the history of the state of Indiana, and I still was able to cut taxes every single year that I've been governor. $3.5 billion in tax cuts between now and 2022. And the result, and Donald's always telling me, get over your Hoosier modesty and talk about Indiana. Because the result is that today, in our bicentennial year in Indiana, I'm proud to say there are more Hoosiers going to work than ever before in the 200-year history of the state of Indiana. And that's exactly the kind of leadership that Donald Trump is going to bring to the White House with the exact same results. Folks, we know how to do it. You know, I served in Washington, D.C., and I know we've got a lot of great people there. Got a lot of good people that are ready to work with common sense leadership in the White House once and for all. One of those people I want to mention to you from the bottom of my heart, I served with him in the House of Representatives. He's never wavered in his commitment to common sense conservative principles. Pennsylvania, will you please return Senator Pat Toomey to Washington, D.C.? He's a man of integrity. And he's a great leader. Now, when you talk about the domestic agenda of this administration, your heart sinks, but it gets even worse when you look outside our shores, doesn't it? I mean, the failed policies of Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton have weakened America's place in the world. You know, President Obama just a few short days ago gave a press conference in which he said a few things about my running mate. So I thought I'd return the favor. He actually said that Donald Trump was, quote, woefully unprepared to do this job, close quote. Now, I will give you that Barack Obama would know a lot about being woefully unprepared to be president of the United States of America. But what really bothered me is he said that Donald Trump lacked the basic knowledge and the judgment to be president. Well, why don't we look at judgment and the results of the judgment of this administration? 7.5 years of Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton's judgment on the world stage has resulted in a map across the wider Middle East that literally is unrecognizable from the day that they entered office. Syria disintegrating into civil war, Libya resulting in disarray and anarchy, and of course the rise and rule and reign of the ISIS caliphate, which compromised the hard-fought gains that were won in Operation Iraqi Freedom by the American soldier. You know, Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama's foreign policy of leading from behind, moving red lines, resets with Russia, paying ransom to terrorist sponsoring states, has resulted in the world seeming to spin apart. Every morning we wake up and there's another story that troubles our hearts. On that last point, let me make a promise to you. When Donald Trump is president of the United States of America, we won't be paying ransom to terrorists or their sponsors. Terrorists will be paying the price for threatening or detaining or harming the people of the United States of America or our allies. Now, Hillary Clinton's record on foreign affairs is appalling. She actually instigated that disastrous deal with the radical mullahs in Iran. The most notorious aspect of which was that $400 million in cash on a pallet delivered the day that those 4 Americans were released in violation of decades of American policy. But it was worse than that. $150 billion goes to a terrorist-sponsoring state, the leading terrorist-sponsoring state in the world. And just last week, the Ayatollah al-Khamenei actually referred to the relationship with America and that deal as, quote, deadly poison, and distanced himself from the very nuclear deal that Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton took to the national stage to claim as a success. And of course, let me say this, it was Hillary Clinton and her State Department who left Americans in harm's way in Benghazi. And after 4 Americans fell, she said, what difference at this point does it make? Let me say this. As the proud father of a United States Marine, let me say this. Anyone who said that, anyone who did that, should be disqualified from ever serving as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the United States of America. Period. We cannot have 4 more years apologizing to our enemies and abandoning our friends. America needs to be strong for the world to be safe. When Donald Trump becomes president of the United States of America, we will rebuild the arsenal of democracy. We will stand with our military. We will confront our enemies, and we will destroy ISIS at its source and make the world safe again. You know, when I think of these times, I just can't help but think, you know, as I travel around Indiana, and then when I got that call, and I've been doing a little more traveling than usual lately. Let me say, I when people say to me, what's it like out there? What are you hearing from people? I say, I think the American people are just tired of being told. And we're tired of being told this is as good as it gets. Right? We're tired of being told that people in both political parties are going to finally get around to fixing those intractable problems while they pile a mountain range of debt on our children and grandchildren. And frankly, we're tired of being told, as Ronald Reagan used to say so well, tired of being told that a, quote, little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives better for us than we can plan them for ourselves. Let me tell you, we hear from time to time about these elites in Washington, D.C. They've got some things to say about my running mate. Every time I see a member of the establishment say that they're not for Donald Trump, I say, check the box, because he's for the American people, not for the failed establishment in our nation's capital. Now, one last thing I want to mention to you, because I think it's so important. As this election approaches, we need to remind our neighbors and friends here in Lancaster County and all over Pennsylvania that while we're choosing a president for the next 4 years, that president will likely determine the course and destiny of the Supreme Court of the United States for the next 40 years. We all better think very carefully about what that means for our Constitution, for our God-given liberties, and for limited government. I say, elect Hillary Clinton, you better get more used to unelected judges using unaccountable power to take unconstitutional actions. Actually, I heard Hillary Clinton the other day say that even though a majority on the current Supreme Court rejected the unconstitutional executive amnesty of this administration, she was going to turn right around and put it back into force and effect. We don't just have candidates on the ballot, we have the Supreme Court on the ballot. So let me say this from my heart. As someone who all of my life has loved and cherished the Constitution of the United States, served with great members of Pennsylvania and the Judiciary Committee in the Congress, fought the fights, I would say, for the sake of the rule of law, for the sake of the sanctity of life, for the sake of our Second Amendment to the Constitution, for the sake of all of our God-given liberties, let's decide here and now in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, that the next president making appointments to the Supreme Court of the United States of America is President Donald Trump. Donald Trump believes in freedom. And he's going to be appointing justices to the Supreme Court who are in the model of that late and great Justice Antonin Scalia. You've seen the list. That list may grow, but it will be reflected in women and men who are principled constitutional conservatives. And that's part of the stakes of this election. Another way he believes in freedom, I love to tell this story because all the freedoms in our Bill of Rights we cherish, but I would submit to you that First Amendment is special. Our first freedoms are enshrined there. There's a great story about Donald Trump. He met about 6 or 7 months ago with a group of pastors from around the country, all of whom expressed enthusiasm for his strong stand for the sanctity of life, his strong stand for conservative ideals. And he looked at them, as he's wont to do, and he apparently said to them, well, can you go back and just tell the folks back home that you're for me? Right? He's not shy. And the word that came back to him was, well, we can't do that. And they began to explain to him that since 1954, when a senator by the name of Lyndon Johnson authored the Johnson Amendment to the Internal Revenue Code, that faith-based organizations of every nature could lose their tax-exempt status if they support or oppose a candidate for political office. Now, I love to say, politicians ask what the deal is, right? Leaders ask why. And Donald Trump asked why. Why in a country that cherishes the freedom of speech and the freedom of religion would that be on the books? And I'm incredibly proud to tell you, just a few short weeks ago, for the first time in the history of the Republican Party, the full repeal of the Johnson Amendment is in the platform of the Republican Party, and Donald Trump will sign a repeal of the Johnson Amendment when he becomes president of the United States and free up the pulpits of all the communities of faith of every stripe in this country to speak their mind and exercise their freedom again. It's really a great story, isn't it? Let me close with just a word, one last word of encouragement, and then I really do want to run to your questions. And I hope you slide your hand in the air, and we've got a few microphones around, and we'll have a little more of a conversation before I slip off to Pittsburgh. Let me say, you know, this is a very challenging time in the life of our nation, at home and abroad. My family and I answered this call that we got late that Wednesday night because we truly believe this is no ordinary time. I mean, it seems to me there's so many things that divide us anymore. So few great purposes that unite us. I think as we leave here today, I hope you'll leave here better equipped to go tell the story in your neighborhood and your friends and in your workplace. Because I promise you, Pennsylvania will loom very large, as it always does, in deciding the leadership of this nation.
We're going to win, Mike. All right.
As you go, I hope maybe that we would think as much about what unites us as what divides us. Because I truly do believe, you know, my grandfather immigrated to this country. You know, he caught a train after he went through Ellis Island, caught a train, went to Chicago, Illinois, drove a bus for 40 years. Proudest man I ever knew. I was named after him. Richard Michael Cawley and Michael Richard Pence. He watched his youngest daughter marry a fast-talking salesman who took her down to southern Indiana. Bought a little house with a cornfield in the backyard. Looked a lot like Lancaster County. They had a gas station business. My brothers and I were all working and pumping gas as gas station attendants as soon as we could get away with it, right? Running out on the drive and earning it. My parents really, I love to say, my parents built everything that matters: a family, a business, and a good name, right? But my dad and my grandfather, we didn't talk so much, even though the politics was different in our family, right? I mean, and divided even as it is to this day, but we always would come together on that broad foundation of what united us, about faith and family and the way we cherish freedom in this country. And I think we do well, and before we part company today, to remember those things. Remember those liberties that are enshrined, that we cherish. And remember that what's so special about this country, what brought my grandfather here, was, as the legend in our family says, that my great-grandfather put her hand on his shoulder as a young man and gave him that one-way ticket across the Atlantic. He wouldn't see her for 25 years, not lay eyes on her for 25 years. And she said, "You have to go to America because there's a future there for you." And I'm part of that future. I can't even imagine what my grandfather's thinking looking down. We use big words like freedom and like liberty, but the mystery of America that's different from almost every other country throughout the history of the world is that here in this country, if you will work hard, if you will play by the rules, if you'll look after your family and your neighbor, that anybody can be anybody. That's what the American dream is. And that's what we have to go out and fight to restore. And lastly, what I truly believe unites us and always has more than anything else, has since before the founding of this country and will ever be true, I believe, that we are so many things in this big, burly country that is America. But we shall ever be, at our very core, one nation under God. liberty, and justice for all. So, before I get to your questions, let me just remind you, just in case you are taking notes, what this choice is. Because I say this to people everywhere I go. I'll say it in Pittsburgh later today. You know, every cable TV show in the world, every network newscast, every radio broadcast, every mail piece, every newspaper article, every point and click on a website, doesn't matter one iota compared to you talking to someone who knows and trusts you about what the stakes are in this election. Okay? And so I want you to leave here today and I want you to tell somebody. I want you to stand up. I want you to help people understand that this election is very simple. It's between change and the status quo. It's between a vision for a stronger America at home and abroad, or continuing down the same path of failed leadership that has weakened our nation. That's the simple choice. So here it is. If you want a president who will protect this nation, rebuild our military, confront radical Islamic terrorism, and rid the world of ISIS, if you want a president who will restore law and order to this country and provide our law enforcement community with the support and the resources that they need and deserve, if you want a president who will cut taxes, roll back red tape, grow our economy, squeeze every nickel out of that bloated federal bureaucracy, and repeal Obamacare lock, stock, and barrel, if you want a president who will build a wall, restore our borders, and enforce our laws for a growing American economy, and if you want a president, I promise you this, I promise you, guaranteed, if you want a president who will upend the status quo in Washington, D.C., and uphold the Constitution of the United States of America, and I will promise you, you have just one choice. I'm here to say, Pennsylvania, that man is ready. Our team is ready. This movement is ready. And America is ready with your help to make Donald Trump the 45th President of the United States of America. And we will make America great again. Let's get to work. Thank you. I'm glad to get that off my chest. And I really do believe, I appreciate you putting up with a few thoughts from me today, because I think it's important for us to remind ourselves what we already know. We're 3 months to go, almost to the day. We're head down, but we've got to go talk to our neighbors and friends about the stakes. So I hope some of that is helpful. I'd love to have you slide your hand in the air, share with me your first name, and please feel free to call me Mike. Mike. Yes, sir, right over here.
Hi, Mike. We love you, Mike. Number one. My name is Lisa, and having served as a member of Congress and the governor, you have an interesting perspective on the issues of the day. What do you think is the greatest challenge and the greatest opportunity for the United States of America in the next decade?
That's great. Well, thanks for mentioning. Before I was governor of Indiana, I served for 12 years in the Congress. And I often tell people if I only had 12 years left to live, I'd want to live it as a member of Congress, because that was the longest 12 years of my life. Thank you. Thanks for that standing up. I think the greatest challenge, the greatest opportunity is very simply going to be met with leadership. I mean, I think in a very real sense, you could look at periods throughout American history where leaders have stepped forward and provided renewed and energetic leadership, not on behalf of the special interest, but on behalf of the American people, and the change each and every time has been dramatic and at times even overwhelming. And this is such a time. And so whether you're talking about rebuilding our military, which is sorely in need of replenishment and resupply and strengthening, and we'll do it in the Trump administration. Or whether you're talking about simply standing strong on the world stage, or whether you're talking about reining in runaway federal spending. I mean, yesterday Donald Trump not only talked about lowering taxes across the board for working families and small businesses, but he also talked about rolling back the hidden taxes of regulation and cutting the red tape that's been an avalanche out of this administration. But I really do believe all of this can happen much more quickly than people think. I love to, and Donald encourages me to always mention Indiana. But just to show you how quickly we made change in Indiana, that's how quick we can make change in Washington, D.C. But it will be met with strong leadership that gets up every day and fights for the American people, and that is Donald Trump, I promise you. Hi, Jeffrey.
I am the elected tax collector for East Lampeter Township, and I got elected by 1 vote and marbled 2. And after I took my oath of office to defend the Constitution, I sued the United States government over the Affordable Care Act personally, because it allows the government of the United States to control the tenets and teachings of your religion. The case went to the United States Supreme Court, and it was not covered by a single newspaper in the United States. And I recently got an opportunity.
What did the court do with it?
The court not only denied hearing the case, they denied to even respond to the petition. So I took the entire petition and filed it recently on the day Hillary got immaculated in another court case in federal court in Philadelphia, and it is part of case number 163164 in the U.S. Court of Appeals right now as part of that case. It essentially says that the United States government cannot control the tenets or teachings of your religion, period, in violation of the U.S. Constitution.
Good for you.
My question is,
It's like my favorite tax collector I've ever met.
all right, okay, I want to help you guys get elected, and here's a shirt, wear it, and you will be the next vice president of the United States.
Okay, good. Hand that over. Thank you so much. Thanks for your principle stand for our freedom. Now, give him a round of applause. That's good. Thank you. Good man. Good man. How about right over here? You can pick. Yes, sir. Hi, what's your name?
I'm Tom.
Hi, Tom.
Governor Pence, what do you think are the keys to winning in November 8th?
The keys to winning in November 8th. Number one, I'm a big believer in hard work. Okay? I really am. So if you haven't gotten involved in this campaign in Pennsylvania yet, please correct that before you leave. All right? I mean, I'm a big believer in door-to-door. I'm a big believer in making phone calls. I'm a big believer in talking to your neighbors and friends directly. I promise you, Donald Trump and I are traveling literally all over the country, and this guy, I got to introduce him yesterday in Detroit. I get to do that a fair amount lately. Comes with the job. I hope it's a 4-year gig at least. But I always say he's a hard man to precede, right? But he's also a hard man to outwork. I mean, he is on it. He's in North Carolina today. If memory serves, he's all over the place. And so I just think it's about shoe leather. I mean, look, we're swimming upstream here against an overwhelmingly biased national media. The truth of the matter is that you can turn on the evening news. I watched last night one of the network news as I TiVo them. I got home about midnight from the campaign trail. I was in Iowa yesterday. It was great. Senator Joni Ernst endorsed Donald Trump yesterday. Congressman Steve King endorsed Donald Trump yesterday. Fantastic. But I got home about midnight, one of the network news. So Donald Trump gives this enormous economic development speech, Tom. Enormous. I mean, you need to go online and look at it. It was just terrific. It was carried on the the cable networks live, but I turned on the evening news, and it was about, I don't know, about 14 minutes into the newscast. Okay, give you 5 minutes on the Olympics. How about that Hoosier that won the gold medal against the Russian? Anybody else think that Lily King? That was strong. She was great. Couldn't be more proud of her. But okay, 5 minutes on the Olympics, but it was like quarter after before they said, oh, and by the way, Donald Trump described economic agenda after they actually ran an article, some other political, and yet ignoring, all of what seems to come out and swirl around the Clinton administration. But look, the great news is that it's kind of 2-on-1 right now. The media is going to continue to do most of Hillary's work for her, but they're still outmatched because we're going to outwork them. And we're going to go out straight to the American people and keep driving the story to make this country great again. I promise you. Great question.
Hi, my name is Renee,
Hi, Renee.
and I'm going into 5th grade. My question
I love
is,
5th grade.
what is Mr. Trump's plans for education and Common Core?
Oh, good. What a well-spoken young lady. Give her a round of applause. Well, let me say, I come from a state, I think we were one of the first states to legally withdraw from Common Core. We went through the process of writing our own standards. It's a lot of hard work, but I'll tell you what, Donald Trump and I believe to our core 2 things I'll share with you. Number 1, education is a state and local function that should be controlled by parents and teachers and administrators here in Lancaster County and here in Pennsylvania and not in Washington, D.C. You're too important, okay? We want, thank you, I mean that from, I'm a governor, I hope to be a vice president, but the highest office I'll ever hold is dad, right? So I got 3 kids, and this is what it's about. So we want our schools to be controlled closest to the people that care the most about you, if I can put it that way. Thomas Jefferson said it kind of more fancy. He said, government governs least, that governs best. That means government that is closest to the people always is most responsive to the people. And when it comes to education, when it comes to public safety, we want our government right here, right? Nose to nose with us so we can hold them accountable, don't we? Second thing is Donald Trump, and I'll tell you, he's passionate about this, girl. Donald Trump and I believe that parents across Pennsylvania and across America should be able to choose where their children go to school regardless of their income and regardless of their area code. He's passionate about it. He's really passionate about it, which really resonated with me because Indiana, I'm proud to say, is home of one of the largest educational voucher programs in the United States of America. We've extended opportunities to disadvantaged kids all over Indiana to go to another public or a private or a parochial school of their choice. And so those are the principles: local control, parental choice, and those are the policies we're going to advance. My last thought on that is just, if Washington, D.C. wants to get involved in education, it's resources, not red tape. If Washington wants to send money, sure, we'll take it. In Pennsylvania and Indiana, good, take the money, but no red tape. All right? We got this. We're running schools in Pennsylvania since the days of William Penn. You can run them in the 21st century without Washington, D.C. And Donald Trump and I believe that. Yes, sir.